Good afternoon. Welcome to Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma. And today my guests are Kiana Brinson Clayton and Kelly Mathias. And both of them are fitness instructors, fitness instructors in different parts of the country. And I'm Tammy Leisher, and I'm coming from Michigan. So Kiana, can you tell us where you are in the United States? Because there may
Sure.
be people listening. Yep.
Yes, I am in Newport News, Virginia.
And Kelly?
I am just north of Orlando, Florida.
Okay. So today our conversation is going to kind of take twists and turns. But before we get into our conversation, have you guys had any wins this week?
Kelly, you can go first.
I'm thinking, what's been a win? What day is it?
It's only Wednesday, but have you had a win at all?
I mean, I guess my win has been really trying to intentionally spend some quality time with my 17-year-old before school starts in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
and it's
that's a good win.
Yeah,
that's a really good win. Yeah.
I'd say my win has been trying to posting almost every day on my social media. That is a huge win for me because, as most people know, I don't post a lot. So huge win for me. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I would say my win so far this week is I'm actually hosting a retreat on Friday, and I've come along with no road bumps so far. That's not saying that there's not going to be, but things are smoothing. They're like, I'm busy, but it's smoothing along. So it'll be okay. So, but yeah, that's been my win because things are coming together. So our conversation today is going to be on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think it's really important for us to talk about this as Pilates and fitness instructors from a standpoint that it's really important for all of us to embrace this. And one thing that we're not going to talk about, but I just want to point a plug in here for our listeners to think about, is it's really important to have an understanding of where your biases are coming from before. And so we've all done our work around biases, but I'm just saying that if you have a bias, sometimes diversity, equity, inclusion can be hard for you. So let's talk first about representation and why it matters. And anybody is fair game to go first.
That is huge, Tammy.
It's huge.
Right,
it's huge, but it needs to be talked about because it's important to have representation in all of the fitness industries, but specifically in the Pilates industry. And I know that I know that they just had a Black Girl Pilates just hosted a conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and she had wonderful representation. Like because I watched her posts, and she had 50 Pilates instructors, which I thought was amazing for her to gather that many instructors.
Yeah.
So
I'm really sad I missed that. Maybe I can make the next one. But, definitely it's so important. And I'd say, just to speak, for myself, being in the Balanced Body Community Expansion Scholarship Program is huge. It was, Tanya Amos and Misty Copeland. They got together with Nora St. John, and wanted to, get a scholarship for more Black women to come, and men to come into the Pilates world, because we were so, misrepresented in that world. And for me to be here in Hampton Roads and to offer that to the community is huge, because honestly, I would think in this area of Newport News, I'm the only Black Pilates instructor. here that I know. I haven't heard of it. Let me know if you've heard of another one, but I have not here in this particular city of Newport News. There may be a few in Norfolk and in the Virginia Beach area, but not here in the city. So this is really big for the community. And I'm going to be in probably 2 weeks, I think on the 14th. Yep. I'm going to be doing a free Pilates mat class, beginner mat class. I'm going to start that with some of the women in the downtown community at the Piggly Wiggly. So I'm looking forward to bringing it more, again, like I said, to the community.
Yeah, and that's really important. It's really important. So
I think sometimes Pilates is looked at like the stay-at-home mom that doesn't have to work, and I think that what we're trying to do is bring it to everybody,
right?
No matter of where you are at, whether it's like the community event you're doing outside, or I do one for our city, and it's boot camp and Pilates or yoga, and we kind of mix it up. But the same thing is trying to kind of break that stigma that you have to be this certain person, this certain body type, this certain, status to do Pilates, which is just not true. And how good is it? How amazing would it be if we could get everybody doing Pilates?
Right.
Well, and I think too, it's like even like moving beyond like the fitness industry and like even having it, what I'm going to use the term ripple out into communities that you don't necessarily always think about. And Kelly, I know you've done a little bit of work within the mental health world, just as I have. And last week I had the opportunity to attend a mental health conference. I'm just going to say I was there, and it was amazing to me the response that I got from the people that were doing the presentations. So we'll see, because I actually have appointments with 2 of them to see where the trauma-informed movement goes within that, which would be Pilates. So, but it's really important. And I think that more and more people are seeking it out. But I live in a community where I am the only Pilates instructor in the whole county where I live. And in the next county over, it's saturated with Pilates instructors. I can't say, Kiana, that I know about a whole lot of diversity. I mean, I think that there's a few, but I don't know. For me to pluck them out and say, I know, but I can't tell you that. So representation matters on a lot of different components. I mean, it's important. It's important. And it's not just for white, wealthy women. Yeah. So, and then the other thing that I think is really important is the environments that we're setting up and how people, I mean, obviously from a nervous system standpoint, people have to feel safe within themselves, but we already know that people come to us that are not always feeling safe within themselves. So it's coming into an environment that we that we think we're trying to create. And I say think because, it's still, sometimes there can still be barriers even in that. So, because I know it's just the safety of the environment, safety responsibility, I guess, of the environments are really important. And I mean, like one of the things that I do is I don't use mirrors in my studio, and that's for a multitude of reasons. But Kiana, I know you said that you lock your door to your studio.
Yes.
Yeah, and that makes your clients feel safe, which I know
makes me feel safe too.
It does. Okay, well, again, it's just those kinds of things that sometimes I think is really, it's just really important.
Yeah. And I mean, just giving your undivided attention, to a client and having those privates right there, to me is creating a sense of safety, Yeah.
And I think being present is so important. And I had I had somebody ask me about being present, and I responded that, it's giving somebody your undivided attention and listening to their story. And again, it's depending on how well or how much, building trust with somebody, and that relationship is crucial. But sometimes when people come to us, trust is sometimes, for some people, trust is hard for them to gauge and to build.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think too, it's how you kind of present yourself in a class. Like if you go into a class and they're talking about other members and things like that, you're not going to feel trustworthy or feel safe in that class. So it's really having that relationship and the control to stop the conversations like that and keep things positive and I guess neutral is the word.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and I just think that when I've had, like, right now, I only do one-on-ones or duets. And so I don't have that kind of dialogue going on on the sides, but even still, it's when even when your clients, if they're doing conversation that's not always helpful, or I'm just going to say, to try and create an environment where it's cohesive, but we can't control what our clients are bringing into the studio. And
Right.
That's the whole thing. But it's our job to stop conversations that would be hurtful with other people.
Yeah.
Right.
And to get them to focus on actually what they're doing, because that's what they're there for. They're
Yeah.
there for the movement and the mind-body connection. And, sometimes that's hard because everybody wants to come in and chat and everything.
Yeah.
But being able to do that creates that environment where people feel safer, knowing that they're going in there and they're going to get a class, where the instructor can help them create that mind-body connection.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing too that I think is inclusion. And I think the inclusion portion of it, it's inclusive of, when I say everybody, I'm talking especially with the way things are right now, is making sure that everybody feels welcome in an environment. And, I know that I've even had questions, because of doing trauma-informed movement, I've actually had people say to me, well, how do you ensure that there's going to be, inclusion? And this is doing the best that we can with the tools that we have in an environment, but it's teaching. And again, it goes back to, what, even in the area that you live in, and attracting people to come into your business based on, safety, but it's also embracing, the differences in other people as well, very respectfully as well.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about this earlier, Tammy, about inclusion, about the word inclusion. I wanted to actually pose a question to you guys, to you ladies. What does inclusion look like to you? And, with being in a world right now where, you get people kind of saying, pick a side, but then at the same time, we're talking about inclusion. How do you, balance that, so.
One of the things that inclusion means to me is, first and foremost, being accepting of everyone. We're all human beings, and we all have emotions, and we all have feelings, and everybody needs to be honored for where they are. And so inclusion to me is embracing. When I mean embrace, welcoming everyone into the environment, not based on color, not based on gender, not based on, sexual identity, or orientation, I should say, excuse me. So it's really being inclusive of everyone. And, the only thing I would have to say for my own environment is I have stairs, and I just had a conversation with somebody a couple days ago. Whereas, like if I had somebody with a physical disability come, I'm not wheelchair accessible to go down into the lower level, but I would be more than willing to go to their home or to go somewhere else where it could be as inclusive, because and that means physical disability, that could be a hearing impairment, and it's like, and we can't, as much as I talk about universal design and universal designs that we design for all barriers, meaning if, and I'm just going to say this because if I'm not fluent in sign language, but what would happen if I had a client that came to me that had a hearing impairment? It's just like for audio caption when we're doing videos and things like that. That's just one barrier. So inclusion to me, Kiana, means my environment is welcoming to everyone.
I love that question, Kiana, because I think that everybody, you're curious, right? Like everybody
Right.
looks at things totally differently. And to me, a kind of similar to Tammy, I think inclusion is seeing everyone as a human being, no matter what their differences are, whether they be difference of opinions, difference of size, difference of preferences. Everybody is a human being and everybody should be valued, and everybody should have the opportunity to come in and exercise and heal and feel better about their bodies. And I also think that includes like the neurodivergent, because I think sometimes we leave that out. We people that are on the spectrum, and maybe trainers are a little bit less likely to work with them because it takes a little bit more communication, or takes a little bit more time. But I think that should be included too. I think it's just looking at everybody as a human being. Like we are all human beings.
That's great.
I think too, is if you, and this is I'm just going to say this in regards to what you just said though, Kelly, because I feel like, if we don't have the skills to work with people, is to find, and this is and I've done this before, is to find people that can help them to meet their needs, because not everybody that walks through our doors are going to be our ideal client. And we already know, everybody knows that. But I really like to network within the community and find people that will help. And I think it's, and I'm coming from an education background, a long-standing education background of working with many different types of disabilities with children and parents. And that can pose an issue. I mean, it can pose bigger, like if you're not familiar with how to work with people like that, it's really, I mean, yes, it's important. So
yeah. I think this is a great conversation, and thank you. I agree with both of you to what you just said about inclusion. And I think now is like this is such a great time for what we're talking about. What we're doing in our practices and in our businesses, because more and more people just seem to want to be included. Right? It's like where do I fit in?
Yes.
I just see more and more of that, from a standpoint of men, women, whatever. I mean, everybody just wants to, be in a place where they fit in.
And feel comfortable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where they're not going to be disrespected. Mm-hmm. And there's, and because, I mean, we have not walked in everybody's shoes. And I just think it's important, if people are coming to us and they have health and wellness goals, that they can come and be themselves and talk about without judgment or without judgment specifically.
Yeah.
And I think just to know like how hard it is for someone to walk into a gym feeling that question, am I going to be welcome here? Am I going to feel comfortable here? Is this LGBTQ friendly? Is this size friendly? Right?
Yeah.
Is it, there's so many things. Is this culturally friendly for what, any of that? And I think just knowing that what it takes to actually make that first step, to make that phone call, to get in a Pilates class, or to come in and have a private, that's a huge step for most people. And I think just recognizing that, to create that safe space and have that empathy that you made this hard decision. And I know this was not easy, and I'm here for you,
Yeah.
And I think that having these kinds of conversations, because when I first started doing Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma, it was to have conversations like this, that sometimes can be thought-provoking. Like, Kiana, I welcomed your question. That was wonderful. But it's having conversations like this that spark an interest in people and saying, oh, I haven't really thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, but language is so important, and language truly matters, whether it's body language or physical language. And sometimes we may have to learn the language, whether it's written or spoken on the camera, in the phone, through a text, that language truly matters.
Yeah.
And all people need to be respected.
Absolutely.
And I really think that there is, it's as professionals, and I'm going to put it as professionals, we all have the obligation, if we're working with humans, to be trained and educated. And if you don't know, and I'm going to just say this too, I was at a crossroads at the end of 2020, and somebody, and I'm just going to, he's just going to, I highly respect him, but he said to me, if you don't know, seek out resources so you do know. And it was the best piece of advice he ever gave to me. And his name was Martin Reed.
Core Conversations.
Yeah. It was a really, it was a very powerful conversation that he and I had. And it was, so I sought out Misty, and I went through her Beyond the Bullshit course. And so if anybody, Misty Coughlin is excellent at that kind of stuff. But again, it's looking at like where are your hidden biases, because if you've got somebody that comes into your studio, and the thing is, we can think that we don't have any biases at all. And somebody may come in and say something and you don't even realize. And I'm going to say this from, I was teaching a college course, and I'm just going to say it for just a second, because I think it's really, I never in my wildest dreams ever felt like I had a bias. And she came in and we were talking about divorce. And this girl said, no parents should get divorced. Keep in mind, 1 month before she said that, I had just got divorced. And I can only tell you how the emotions, it brought me to tears. And I had to step out of the classroom and compose myself, and that was a trigger that I did not see coming at all. And even though but it was very, very profound for me. Something that few words could have such a huge impact on me. And so we don't know. We don't know what people will say.
Right. We don't. I mean, I can just share just with me coming into Pilates, you know, as a teacher. When I first stepped into the door, I didn't really, I didn't feel confident, you know. I didn't feel confident because there weren't a lot of teachers, at least I didn't see a lot of teachers who looked like me. And then secondly, I didn't feel I had the proper education, let's put it that way. I took a course, but it wasn't a big comprehensive course like the one that I'm in right now. But now I can honestly say, now that I'm actually seeing, oh, there are more, you know, teachers that look like me. Oh, I'm in a program now where, you know, I'm feeling real confident. I'm knowing my stuff. You know what I mean? I'm getting it done. So, you know, now I feel better. I guess, you know, with the posting and, you know, with putting new things out there. You know, it just happened for me. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, you know, about little triggers and that sort of thing, or people maybe not coming because my community doesn't support me. I'm in, you know, the community here, and the people that I'm surrounded, you know, about like the people around the business, they never really come to support. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But you know, I was feeling some way about that, but that's okay because, you know, there are other Pilates teachers in the area, but they're probably going to them. But I'm here too, just to let you all know. And I know my stuff too. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. But I know exactly what you mean about that, Tammy. Yeah.
And I just think it's important that as much as we talk about what I'm going to use the word triggers,
Mhm.
and it could be a trigger of any kind, well, let alone like a trigger from our past. I mean, and for me, it was very real, but it's also, you think you prepared for triggers, but yet in reality, you really don't know. But it's the piece of how do you handle it professionally, and sometimes it may mean like pausing, and heaven forbid it should have to take a composure piece to it, but it's really how do you handle it professionally.
But I think this is where trauma informed really comes in. Because in order to be trauma informed, you've had to work on your own stuff, right?
Absolutely.
We've all been working on our own stuff while we're doing this.
Still are.
Yeah, still are
Oh,
every
okay.
day, right? But then you learn, I think, the skills you need to get through your own stuff so that when it comes up in a professional standpoint, you have that moment to pause. You know, to not react, to take that pause and that deep breath. And how do I calm my own nervous system so that I can help my class co-regulate? I think that that's where it becomes, you become a better teacher, a better Pilates instructor, because you can recognize that and you have the tools to, you know, handle your own, to regulate your own nervous system, really.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that, Kelly, because I mean, that's why the trauma-informed movement came about. But the added layer to that is the understanding of how the trauma impacts our nervous system. And so that's a whole nother piece of the trauma-informed movement. And, you know, we think that like it's not as easy as, you know, going outside and sitting with your feet in the grass. The nervous system goes so much deeper. And that's where through the course, and I wasn't going to make this about the course, but I'm going to put it, I'm going to just say it's having an understanding from a neurological standpoint or a bioneurological standpoint that our nervous system impacts every single thing that we do. Just even from the three of us sitting here talking and my phone going off and irritating me. But that's what I'm saying. But it affected my nervous system because I don't like to jitter when I'm doing these kind of conversations. And it's just, it's a part of like understanding when you walk into a room. So if you've got somebody that's coming to you and there's fear involved in it, typically I can sense like when people are coming like in the environment, but it's being aware of how you're feeling, what it's doing to your body. Kelly, you wrote a blog this morning and you posted it, and but you know what? I really liked it because you talked about, and as instructors or movement educators, as I like to call myself, it's important to have an understanding because we talk about anatomy, we talk about all the muscles and the ligaments and the tendons and everything else that goes along with our body. But when you're talking about it from a nervous system standpoint and it going much deeper, and we think about things from an internal to the external, and that's how I like to teach. But our bodies give us so many more clues.
We just have to listen.
Right.
Exactly. We have to listen to what the emotions are telling us inside of our body. So if you're getting a tight, tense neck, what's going on?
Yeah.
Or maybe you got a stomach ache. Or maybe you're not talking because somebody's, I don't know. I'm just using that as, so if you're getting any kind of constriction, what are you holding back from saying?
See, as a little kid, I always had stomach aches. I was constantly in the nurse's office at school saying my stomach hurts, my stomach hurts. But did anybody at that point know that it was my anxiety? That my body was telling me something is not right. You're nervous. There's something going on.
Yeah.
It was my anxiety, but we didn't talk
about it. Yeah.
We didn't know, so when a kid comes to me, one of my kids, and they're like, I have a stomach ache. Okay, tell me what you're feeling. What's happening? What are you worried about? What's going on? Because it's obviously more than just a physical symptom. It's deeper.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it is. And I think that even being trauma informed and nervous system informed has made me a much better teacher. Has made me a much, much better teacher. Just like to identify things within your clients. Like I had, and I'm just going to say that I had a client this morning and she was identifying areas in her body, in her back. And I said, and she's got a lot of stuff going on. And I said to her, what's going on and how does that make you feel? And she is one of my clients that I have to be very careful about the language that I use with her because she is not ready to go there with the nervous system. And that's the understanding that not everybody's going to be open and receptive to it. And I understand and I respect that with all of my clients and even with all of our listeners that not everybody wants to talk about it from that standpoint.
And that's part of being inclusive too. Like some people are ready and some people are not. And we're just respectful of the fact that they're human too. And that's just where they're at in their journey.
Yeah. Very, and like even giving them movement, helping them to help release your emotions in your body. And I don't use 90% of the time, I do not use the word trauma with my clients. I might use, if her shoulders were like really heavy and she's been doing a lot of things emotionally. And so she was telling me how her neck and her shoulders. And I said, usually there's additional emotional things going on when you're feeling it that tense. So, but yeah. And then the other thing that, and Kiana, you're already doing this, but I think it's really, and Kelly, you've done it even in your own area as well, but partnering with diverse communities or partnering within like other organizations where you don't necessarily, you're not always there. And I've done a few of those events this year. I actually partnered with a nonprofit and did some training with their staff on trauma and the nervous system. And right now I am working with a group of children, and it's very diverse for what I'm doing right now. And lots of little nervous systems going on in that one, but it's a very diverse community. So just getting involved in the community where you are, representing your own business, speaks a lot. So.
Yeah.
So ladies, do you have anything? I just want to say that by prioritizing diversity, equity, inclusion in the fitness industry, we can create spaces where everyone feels valued, empowered to pursue health and wellness goals without fear, judgment, or discrimination or exclusion.
Agree.
Thank you for joining
Yes,
me.
I agree. I agree.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thanks, Tammy.
you're welcome.